We surround ourselves with deadbolts, motion sensors, and continuous connectivity, assuming these tools create an impenetrable barrier between us and the unknown. But step out to the very edge of your property line at night, and you realize exactly how thin that barrier really is. A couple found themselves testing that boundary during a weekend stay at an isolated, heavily wooded estate. They had the doors locked, the alarm set, and miles of private acreage buffering them from the outside world. At 1 a.m., that buffer dissolved. A low-frequency blare, sounding like an impossibly loud boat horn, ripped through the air. The vibration was violent enough to physically shake the home's foundation and rattle the glasses inside the dining room china cabinet. What happened next is a classic hallmark of a concurrent systems failure. The exterior motion sensor floodlights snapped on, detecting a physical presence in the yard. At that exact second, both the home's Wi-Fi network and their individual cellular services dropped entirely to zero. Peering out, they saw two unnaturally swaying silhouettes approaching. Seconds later, two separate exterior doors, secured with deadbolts, violently blasted open inward simultaneously. The couple retreated and finally managed to contact law enforcement when their cell service returned. Officers searched the perimeter. The ground outside those broken doors was a thick, wet mud, yet there was a complete absence of physical footprints or any disruption to the soil. The architectural and technological fortresses we build rely on the rules of physics. When an intruder operates entirely outside those boundaries, a deadbolt offers no protection at all. Moving further away from civilization brings us to a massive, isolated lake in the desolate, freezing month of March. A man was staying alone at a small waterfront cabin, completely isolated from neighbors. The first indicator of an anomaly was biological. His black lab, a hunting dog, normally fearless in any weather condition, refused to step outside. The animal paced and cried at the back door, in severe, uncharacteristic terror, before anything was even visible to the human eye. When the man stepped out to investigate, he saw multiple distinct spheres of light hovering near the horizon. They were engaged in erratic, dancing movements over the massive expanse of the water. This chart maps out a kinematic anomaly. A standard aircraft relies on momentum, requiring wide, curved flight paths to turn or ascend. The spheres violated these physics entirely, performing instantaneous right-angle ascents into the upper atmosphere before vanishing. Returning the following nights, the scattered trajectory points slowly merged together, collapsing into a massive, humming entity suspended over the water. The unified object then rapidly shot toward the shoreline, moving erratically as it buzzed the house and the surrounding trees. It looked like the cabin was being pelted by fireworks, but when the lights vanished instantly, a check of the property revealed zero physical damage. Random weather events do not behave this way. The ability to halt in midair, deliberately merge, and target specific physical structures indicates an advanced, highly purposeful intelligence. The deepest vulnerability occurs when we remove shelter entirely. In our third case, a camper took a late-night walk to smoke, wandering a 15-minute distance away from his family's RV into a secluded, densely forested campground. Deep in the trees, an auditory anomaly began. An unnatural, continuous, pulsating frequency, sounding almost like a synthetic voice repeating a hollow wow noise, started echoing through the organic landscape. As the camper tracked the noise, he experienced what researchers call the Oz factor. Suddenly, every ambient sound in the environment completely stopped. The rustling wind and the noise of the insects were instantly muted, plunging the forest into total, suffocating silence. Looking at this biological scale diagram, we can see the anatomical impossibility of what emerged in that silence. Compared to an average human, the figure standing 10 feet away was over 7 foot tall, bipedal, and severely hunched. It had massive reflective eyes, and it flinched with terrifying, unnatural speed when the camper took a single step. The entity let out a bizarre, non-linguistic vocalization and skittered rapidly off into the darkness. Immediately, the natural sounds of the wind and insects rushed back in, as if a vacuum seal had just been broken. Later, as sunrise approached, a secondary aerial anomaly occurred. A massive, heavy rush of air whooshed directly over the tree line, displacing the atmosphere completely, without generating a single decibel of engine noise. The true consequence of the event only became apparent when the witness returned to his RV. His wife was furious about his long absence. He checked his phone and realized he had lost several hours of time, with absolutely no memory of where it went. For the camper, a brief walk and a standoff felt like an hour at most. But in reality, half the night had vanished, suggesting that these encounters can warp a witness's internal clock as easily as they silence the woods. Looking at all three of these events, a singular, frustrating pattern emerges: the concept of the evidential vacuum. We see aggressive physical interactions, low-frequency waves vibrating architecture, high-speed aerial objects targeting structures, and close proximity biological encounters in the mud. Yet paradoxically, they leave absolutely zero forensic footprints, scorch marks, or biological material behind. The environment immediately resets, erasing the physical proof. But the psychological residue left on the witnesses is massive and permanent. They remember the violent sensory assault and the missing hours. This exact lack of tangible evidence builds a powerful social stigma. Experiencers are forced into profound geographic and social isolation, choosing to hide their encounters rather than face the inevitable public ridicule. Our current level of technological surveillance and scientific data should, in theory, make the world transparent. Instead, these accounts suggest a reality that remains completely indifferent to our ability to record it, leaving us unequipped to define, capture, or defend against the things waiting in the dark.